What's going on, everybody? You're watching Giants Now by Chat Sports. I am your host, Marshall Green. In today's video, I wanted to react a little bit more to Joe Schoen's bye-week press conference that he held Monday morning. We broke down the entire press conference on Monday, and you can go check that out on the channel. But I wanted to talk more so about what he said about Evan Neal, because he pretty much called him out. And then we're going to talk about what he said about the offensive line. And to be honest with you, I loved what he said about Evan Neal. But I didn't love kind of the excuses he's made for the Giants season being derailed like it was at the start of the year. What he did say about Evan Neal was, quote, Evan needs to play better, and he knows that. And that is obvious. Everybody knows that, but it's nice to hear your general manager acknowledge that. Look, this 7th overall pick in the 2022 NFL Draft has just simply not lived up to the hype that he had coming into the National Football League. A lot of teams had Evan Neal as the number one offensive tackle in that draft class. So I'm not going to say it was a bad pick by the Giants. It wasn't a reach. They didn't overdraft him. And the other guy that was talked about in the same breath as Neal was Ika Mekwonu, the offensive tackle by the Panthers, who was selected 6th, and he hasn't been that much better either. One of my biggest pet peeves, though, with Evan Neal has been his availability. He's already missed 9 games so far to start his NFL career due to injuries. Some in the rookie season, some in the second season. Another problem is he has regressed from his freshman season, his rookie season in the National Football League, to his sophomore season. According to Pro Football Focus, of players that have played 50% of the snaps in the last 2 years, Evan Neal was ranked as the 57th offensive tackle in the National Football League. In 2023, he's been ranked as the 62nd offensive tackle in the league. So he hasn't got better. Take a look at these stats. They go a little bit more in depth. In 2022, he had a Pro Football Focus grade of 44. It's a scale of 1 to 100. 100 being the best. Run block grade, 48.2. Pass block grade, 47.5. He was not graded out nicely by Pro Football Focus. 7 penalties. That's an issue. He allowed 39 pressures and 7 sacks as a rookie. Focus on 2022 and 2023 here with those two stats. 39 pressures, and he only missed a couple of games in 2022. This year, he's already missed 3 games. He's given him just 9 less pressures, and the sacks will come once he starts to play more football games. He didn't get better in the grade. He's gotten slightly better as a run blocker. He's taken steps back as a pass blocker. I think it's safe to say that Evan Neal has been a bust since he has entered the National Football League. A lot of people thought he was going to be a walk-in, plug-and-play player that could play at the Pro Bowl level. I thought that. You thought that. Joe Schoen obviously thought that as well. Not the only person. I'm not blaming him for the pick, but it just hasn't worked out, and he needs to be better. Joe Schoen said this at the press conference. I went back and watched the Alabama stuff. The kid can play. We just have to get him to be more consistent. I have a lot of confidence in Evan. He's a hard worker. It's killing him right now to be out. He's missing some valuable reps in year 2. Well, since Joe Schoen went to go look back at the Alabama tape, I wanted to go and take a look at Dane Brugler's player profile and scouting profile for Evan Neal. Dane Brugler works for The Athletic. I think he is the best draft guy in the business. Let's start with his strengths. He's got a massive frame with wide hips to comfortably carry his weight. Fluid out of his stance with lower body coordination to quickly cut off pass rush angles. He moves with unique flexibility for his size. His punch is tight, heavy, and consistently on time. He uses long arms to steer rushers wide of the pocket. There's very little give in his reach, and he won't allow his arms to be chopped down. I agree with a lot of that. Let's go to the weaknesses, though. He tends to fall off blocks and needs to fortify his balance at contact. That's a mistake. That is a huge issue right now with Evan Neal's game. He can be tossed around when he allows his upper half to overextend. Still a problem. He's inconsistent, sustain, and finish in the run game, especially in space. Very true. Doesn't have elite lateral range and pass protection and can be beaten to the corner. Occasionally shows cracks in his fundamentals, leaving him on the ground too much. Needs to continue to develop his play strength. All of that is spot on. Overall, he said this. Neal lacks elite lateral agility and needs to clean up his leaning. He's a bad leaner, but he is an effective blocker thanks to his rare mix of size, athleticism, and flexibility. He projects as an immediate NFL starter with Pro Bowl potential and multi-positional versatility. Dane Brugler was absolutely spot on with his concerns in Evan Neal. Everything he listed as a concern came out to be true, and that is what is holding back Evan Neal in his first 2 seasons in the National Football League. He has a bad base, in my opinion. I think he has bad footwork. He's consistently slow off the ball. Brugler was right on the nose with all of that. So there's been questions with Neal struggling at right tackle. Could the Giants, maybe in year 3 for Evan Neal, look to move him to the right guard position? Joe Schoen was asked, has he thought of that as a potential outcome? And he said, no, I don't think so. We are looking forward to getting him back, but he knows there are some things he could do better, and that's what we expect from him. Everyone always tells me, Marshall, we should try Evan Neal at right guard. And I'm okay to try Evan Neal at right guard, but I'm not sure he can play there. The same problems that he has at tackle are going to be the same problems he has at right guard. He doesn't have a good base. His feet are always out of whack. He doesn't have the agility to be a pulling guard, and you rarely see him, I would say, work well in space on the second level. At the end of the day, he's just not that good of a football player so far. Can he be? Yes. Are the tools there? Yes. But let's call a spade a spade. He's been awful so far through 2 years. And can we please stop the Andrew Thomas comparisons? Just because Andrew Thomas was bad in year 1 and then got better in year 2, great in year 3, all-pro in year 4, that doesn't mean that Evan Neal is going to be the same thing. So can we please stop that? Overall, this is my take on Evan Neal. If you don't take anything else from this video, take this. Neal cannot be the only investment at the right tackle position for the New York Giants going into the 2023-2024 season. You need to A, draft another guy that can push him. B, sign a veteran that can push him. Or C, sign a veteran swing tackle that would provide some sort of competition for him in camp. You should not just be handing out the right tackle starting position on a silver platter for Evan Neal. He needs to earn the job, and he needs to win a competition. And if he's hurt, like he has been in year 1 and year 2, there needs to be an adequate backup there. You can't only rely on Evan Neal to be your right tackle this year. I'll ask you this question. Is Evan Neal a bust? He's only played in 20 games in his career, not even a season and a half. I believe he needs some more time, but he is on his way to being a bust. Maybe you think he does, maybe you think he doesn't. Let me know what you think. Type B for bust or T for he needs more time. Coming up next, I had a little bit of a problem with Joe Schoen's press conference. Watched it once yesterday, watched it once again on Tuesday morning and Wednesday morning. And I felt like I got a better, more clear picture of some things he was trying to say. So I got to get him off my chest. But first, I got to give a huge shout out to today's sponsor, Factor. Go to factormeals.com/GiantsChat50 and use the promo code GiantsChat50 and you're going to get 50% off your order. I'll put the link and the promo code down in the comments and description. This holiday season, you might be looking for nutritious, convenient meals to keep you energized on jam-packed days. Factor, America's #1 ready-to-eat meal delivery service, can help you fuel up fast for breakfast, lunch, and dinner with chef-prepared, dietitian-approved, ready-to-eat meals delivered straight to your door. You'll save time, eat well, and stay on track with your healthy lifestyle while tackling all your holidays to-dos. When you're too busy running around to plan lunch, Factor has you covered with lunch to go. Effortless, wholesome meals like grain bowls and salad toppers that are ready to eat when you're on the go, and no microwave is required. With Factor, you can rest assured you're making a sustainable choice. We offset 100% of our delivery emissions and source 100% renewable electricity for our production sites and offices. Head to factormeals.com/GiantsChat50 and use code GiantsChat50 to get 50% off. That's code GiantsChat50 at factormeals.com/GiantsChat50 to get 50% off. You guys are going to love this stuff. I promise you. Give them a shot. Support the show. Support the sponsor. All righty. Joe Schoen was asked about the offensive line and kind of the lack of, I would say, resources that he put into the offensive line and why have they struggled so far this year. He made a couple of comments, but the one that bugged me the most, which I honestly felt like it made me feel stupid. He said, we won 10 games with the same offensive line last year. All right, you won 10 games with the same offensive line last year. But I watched every single Giant game last year, and most every single Giant game twice. The offensive line was the Achilles heel from this team from week 1 to the second round of the playoffs when the Eagles kicked your teeth in. And Pro Football Focus agreed. PFF, and I'm not saying they're the Bible, but they're a I would say, invested party in the Giants, and they're not going to be biased. PFF ranked the Giants' 2022 offensive line 30th in the NFL. only 32 teams in the league. What about this one? The Giants allowed the 5th most sacks in 2022, 49 sacks. So you allowed the 5th most sacks. You were a bottom 3 offensive line based on a non-invested, non-biased publication. And you're telling me you thought it was okay to run that team back? Thing is, you didn't run that offensive line back. I'm not saying the people that you lost, like John Feliciano and Nick Gates and Tyree Phillips, are the reason the Giants offensive line was bad, but you didn't bring them back. So don't tell me you ran it back with the same team. You didn't bring back John Feliciano. He started a lot of games. You didn't bring back Nick Gates. And you didn't bring back Tyree Phillips. You initially cut him to start the year, and you signed him a couple of weeks later after injuries preserved. The only actual addition you made this offseason was John Michael Schmitz in the draft. So you lost 3 guys that started games for you last year, and the sole addition you made was John Michael Schmitz. Don't tell me it was the same offensive line. And please stop talking about last year. Nobody gives a rat's ass what you did last year. Last year in NFL terms is almost like 10 years ago. You're only as good as what you did recently. And let's keep it a buck. The Giants were not a good football team the second half of the season. They started 6-2. They ended up winning 9 games that season. They won 3 games over the past 9 regular season matchups. And they got gifted a horrible Minnesota Vikings team in round 1. I'm not a fan of the excuses that Joe Schoen continues to make. I'm just not a fan. Talking about the injuries or why the Giants' O-line has been bad. You know why? Because you didn't put any more juice into the offensive line that you built. He almost seemed defensive yesterday, almost like he could do no wrong. Quick Joe Schoen presser recap to get out of here. Why do I feel like he felt defensive? He's making excuse after excuse. I'm tired of it. The second most O-line combos in 15 years. 1, who the hell knows this stat? And 2, you're only looking this up to use as an excuse. What about this one? He was asked about the punt returner issues. He said, why didn't you keep Jamison Crowder and cut someone else? He said, well, we already kept 7 wide receivers. We're not going to keep 8. 1, you kept Sterling Shepard, and he's done nothing but warm the bench all year long. And 2, you kept Cole Beasley on your practice squad over Jamison Crowder. And in the result, you muffed multiple punts, and Jamison Crowder is having a hell of a year for Washington as a punt returner. Then he tried to blame it on a rough start to the season. Talked about how you had to play 5 playoff teams in the first 4 games, and how you had to play 3 games in the first 11 games of the season. It's the National Football League. Everybody has a tough schedule. Then he was asked if he had any regrets on the roster construction and the way it worked out. You know, I feel like that could have been a good opportunity for a GM that's the GM of a team that's 4-8 and facing a top 5 pick potentially to address some things. And he said, no regrets. No regrets. It's one of the worst offenses the NFL has ever seen. How can you say there's no regrets? And then this last one, you're only afforded so many resources. You're right. You are only afforded so many resources. And you gave up 40% of your freaking cap almost to Daniel Jones. Don't tell me that you only had so many resources when you paid a king's ransom to Daniel Jones when nobody in the National Football League was ever going to give him the contract that you did. The second and third time I watched this press conference kind of made my blood boil a little bit. He sounded arrogant, thought he sounded defensive, and he could do no wrong, and he just got handed a shitty circumstance and couldn't make the most of it. I say all that to say this, though. I do believe in Joe Schoen. You go back and you look at the 2022 draft class and the 2023 draft classes, there's some foundational pieces that he found in that draft class. But overall, it's off-season 3 for Joe Schoen. The third offseason as the general manager for the Giants is coming up. I don't know how long you get. You definitely don't really get multiple years after you already paid a quarterback $92 million and then get to draft one in the first round. I don't think Joe Schoen should be on the hot seat, but I think you should. I just didn't love the way he talked in that press conference. I'll just leave it at that. It's year 3, though. Off-season. If the team's ever going to look like you want it to look in your style and your manner and your reflection, you got to do it in year 3. If you were Joe Schoen, if you were the general manager of the New York Football Giants, what would be your first move this offseason? I want to hear from you down in the comment section. And I also just want to say thank you, and I appreciate every single one of you that came by and made Giants Now part of your day. If you haven't yet, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Free Giants content every day, and we're just under 40,000 subs on the channel. Help us get there. We'll see you later. Go Big Blue.